Hello movie explorers. In this recap I will describe the film titled Source Code. A U.S. Army captain is dispatched into a virtual reality to track down a bomber who left an explosive device on a train in this 2011 American science fiction action thriller directed by Duncan Jones. The movie starts with a man is shown dreaming of a war while sleeping, only to awaken to find himself on a train. He doesn't know what's going on. A woman in his presence reveals that she followed his recommendation. The people around him catch his eye. A ticket is required by the conductor. He doesn't understand why she's doing this, so she takes it out of his pocket to show him. Not being Sean, he informs her, is a fact. Who you are is a mystery to me. Captain Coulter Stevens here. I'm a chopper pilot for the U.S. Army in Afghanistan. She dismisses his claims that he is ill with laughter. As the train comes to a stop, he exits. A young adult comes into view. Find a man's dropped wallet and give it back to him. He inquires of the young lad as to where they currently stand. He reveals that they've arrived in Chicago. As the train pulls away from the bridge's arches, he re-enters. In his target, he notices his own reflection. When he looks in the mirror at himself, he sees several males and begins to worry. When he takes out his cash and credit cards, he realizes that the wallet he's holding actually belongs to a man named Sean. When he exits, the same woman, now calling him Sean, checks to see if he's okay. He informs her that he isn't familiar with Sean or her, and that the wallet in question does not belong to him. She assures him that the next stop is our exit. Find out what the heck is going on, if anything. Once the oncoming train reaches them, an explosion occurs, taking the lives of everyone in the area. He comes to while restrained in a cockpit seat. A female voice has now been heard. When he has trouble recalling her name, she uses a card pattern and a recitation of passages to help him recollect. Goodwin is the name he eventually recalls her by. The man then watches as he types something into the computer and walks away. She wants to know who bombed the train. He has no idea. And she encourages him to give it another shot. Locating the bomb is the first order of business. Then, he and the bomber will have 8 minutes to work together. He returns back in time and finds everything happening just as it did before. This causes him to begin to suspect everyone, but identifying the bomber proves to be extremely difficult. And he recalls that the previous time there was an explosion, it came from the direction of the restroom that was directly behind him. He started looking around. There, he unlocks the air ducts and discovers the bomb, confused. He tries to solicit Goodwin's advice, but Goodwin ignores him. He comes out and acts like he's from transit security because he doesn't want the bomb to go off in the wrong place. No one listens to his request that they turn off their cell phones and other electrical devices. An explosion takes place. Once again. He not only informs her that he has discovered the explosives, but also asks to know the situation. Therefore, she contacts her superior and gains approval to share certain information with him over the phone. In light of this, she informs him that a bomb went off on a commuter train outside of Chicago this morning, killing everyone on board. Sean, a passenger on the train, is reliving the final 8 minutes of his life. The train bombing marked the beginning of a string of attacks. It's safe to assume that there will be subsequent instances. Then he reveals that he discovered the bomb in the vent panel over the sink in the men's room. She sends him away, urging him to give his full attention to the job at hand. This time, he turns to the conductor and inquires as to whether or not anyone on the bus appears suspicious. He then urges her to play a game to determine which is the most suspicious looking of them both. Everyone seems normal to her. An ill-appearing man emerges from the restroom where he believes the bomb to be hidden. Now that he knows she saw him go, he can't help but wonder if she's telling the truth. She introduces herself as Christina, and we learn her name. As he leaves, he motions for her to follow. This is where her resistance becomes apparent. In order to encourage her to leave with him, he kisses her and says he has a horrible feeling about the train. He motions for her to take a seat, then joins the man at the table. Communicates with him. The man thinks the other man is following him, so he makes an effort to flee. When Sean's bag fails to provide the phone, he snatches it and starts tearing it to shreds. When the fighting begins and he realizes the train didn't explode because of him, he realizes he wasn't responsible. He keeps going, but is pushed onto the track where an approaching train is waiting. He gets run over by the car. A frigid shock greets him as he comes to in the capsule. He tries to get in touch with Goodwin but is unsuccessful. They are also making an effort to get in touch with him but have not received a reply. She notices irregularities in his vitals and tries to rejoin him, but it's too late. Despite his best efforts, he is unable to go until he reconnects the wires and restores the usual temperature. He confides in her that he once rescued a lady from a speeding train. The man informs him that he did, in fact, save her, but only in the code. What is it? The man wonders. By analogy, he tells us that the brain's electromagnetic charge stays charged briefly after death, much like a light bulb that continues to emit a weak light even after being turned off. Approximately 8 minutes of material dedicated to short-term memory is included. After only 8 minutes, he will no longer be able to survive there. That is not time travel in any sense of the word. Because of this, they can enter a parallel universe. Sean, who is sitting directly across from me, says he helped the girl in danger. He gives her name, and the authorities verify that she was killed on the train this morning before informing him of the news. They need him to acquire information about the bomber to prevent more attacks before more lives are lost in downtown Chicago. As the train travels along, she reveals the strongbox's location to Sean. A fully loaded gun is inside. This time, bring it up in his chat with Christina. After making a series of accurate predictions, he asks her if she trusts him enough to do something potentially risky. They disagree, and he respects her for being so forthright. She asks in shock, "Who are you? How did you manage to lose the Sean the new me is here?" What he says, followed by an attempt to force entry into the safe. However, just as he raises the weapon, he is tasered. When he comes to, he notices that he is handcuffed and begs Christina to let him use her phone to contact his father and apologize. Before the train explodes, she apologizes to him for the trouble they had with his father before he left Afghanistan. A second time, he inquires about his progress in the program and whether or not Goodwin has joined it. She is interested in evaluating his work against her own, but is concerned about taking up unnecessary time. When he asks if she's aware of any departmental acronyms, he's told no. There is no way she could win. Only a select few people can accomplish what he is. She tells him to concentrate on the mission and promises to let him talk to his father afterward. He now has even more reason to doubt the truth. After being sent back, he finally decides to ask Christina about his military buddy. In Afghanistan, he suddenly vanished, and nobody has seen or heard from him since. Being that he is the real Captain Colter Stevens. The locals are convinced he is Sean, though. A woman informs him that the acronym belongs to the Air Force Division. He then takes her phone and tries to get in touch with Rutledge, the man responsible for the code and the leader of this mission. The operator has told him to hold on. Christina appears before him. When she tells him that his friend has passed away, he assumes that she must have mistyped his friend's name. By providing details such as the man's full name, father's name, final mission, and time of death, she verifies that she is indeed dealing with the right person. That was back in the beginning of the summer, so 2 months ago. Disbelief overcomes him during his final mission. When he realizes that he is actually dead and on the train, he blacks out and recalls the details of his death. He asks her if he is dead after waking up in the capsule. She reveals that he is only conscious in a fraction of his brain. He inquires as to the condition of his other bodily parts. He is able to see and feel his extremities. She says it's all an optical illusion. This capsule, like everything else here, is an illusion. He explains to Rutledge that he phoned him from the moving train moments before the blast. He could call, but it would go to a different Dr. Rutledge, according to what Rutledge has told him. To put it simply, he is teleported to an alternate timeline. Captain Stevens explains that what he's doing may be within the law. According to Rutledge, a military court has already reviewed and approved the plan. There are some soldiers for whom this is an improvement over death. The honor of carrying out one's patriotic duties after one's physical body has decayed. How long has he been in combat? Captain Stevens inquires. A scientist would never do such a thing. For the sake of the country, Stevens says, the soldier's death was acceptable. Goodwin is instructed to stop providing breaks after this mission is complete. He is sent back multiple times before finally admitting that he can't find the bomber and accepting defeat. You were born a hero, Rutledge tells him. Playing a recording of his father at his funeral serves as inspiration for him to continue saving lives. Now he's the one to grab the gun. The next step is to disengage the bomb's tape detonator, which was connected to a cell phone. His return call is to the final number. Someone gets it, and he says he'll find him and tell him to turn around in the compartment. A man in front of you, who is also on his phone, turns and holds you at gunpoint, convinced that you are the bomber. Confused, the man explains that he is a software engineer and that he was on the phone with his wife before asking him to dial the number again because he must have accidentally hung up. There is still no response to his repeated calls. He sees a man exit the train. A teenager returns the man's wallet to him after he has called them to fix the phone. Once again Stephen observes the man taking the wallet to a different door and leaving it there. Stevens grabs it and learns the person's name is Derek Frost. In response to Christina's request to have the train stopped, he leaps off the moving vehicle. As he approaches, he follows the man who is about to leave in a white van. After spotting the license plate, Steven pulls his gun out and threatens the man, but the latter claims he has nothing to do with the bomb. To make everyone think you were dead, Steven shows him the wallet he dropped on purpose twice. Additionally, there is no suspect. After the blast, he gives him a grin and proceeds to demonstrate the bomb he built to destroy Chicago. The sight of Christina following him off the train distracts him, and he is killed. The bomber then shoots Christina before realizing his target is a teacher named Sean. Even though Steven was paralyzed, he was still aware, and he asked why. "Because the world is hell, but we have a chance to start over in the rubble," he replied. To get to the leaves, however, rubble must first be cleared away. Surprisingly, Steven still dies when the train explodes. Comes back to tell Dr. Rutledge the bomber's name and license plate number. The plan was to let him die after the mission, so he naturally wants to know more about the arrangement. For the program's sake, Rutledge hoped he would rethink his decision. He has, Stevens informs him. Instead, he has other desires. His desire to die has not changed, but he now also wishes to return to the train in an effort to save its passengers. The fact that he knows it won't work but still wants to try motivates him first. However, the bomber is apprehended, and Goodwin expresses his delight at the news. He tells her the train explosion was an accident and that he must have missed something. It was clear that there was a second detonator that he had missed. She explains that it's a safety feature built into the computer system. That one girl on the train, everyone else has disappeared. He explains why she's mistaken. It's not necessary for her to be dead. She has sent a message from him in which he pleads with her to let him go back inside and turn off the machine. He finally wins her over by making the threat that she will turn off his life support. It took 8 minutes, but she finally sent him away. This time, he disarms the bomb by removing both cell phone detonators, steals the handcuff from the guard, and prevents the bomber from leaving the train. He ties the bomber up to the train and calls the police, giving his name as Derek and telling them where the two bonds are hidden, one in the train, the other in a van, before calling his father and pretending to be Shauna when they speak. The Stevens ally then goes back to see Christina. As it turns out, Stevens and Christina are in love with each other. He places a wager with a comedian who says he cannot make everyone on this train laugh. A comedian accepts it and uses it to make everyone laugh. Christina is then escorted to the opposite side of the compartment by him. Is interested in knowing how she would spend her last minute on Earth. With time seemingly standing still, she would make every second count before he ran out of time and kissed her. It turns out that the scientist had no intention of letting Stevens rest, and instead plans to develop similar programs and recycle Stevens by erasing his memories before doing so. Goodwin, however, disregarded the scientist's wishes and chose to end Stevens' life. Stevens can't believe he and everyone else are still alive after they turned off his life support. His mind is currently in Sean's body. And he notifies this version of Goodwin that she will be hearing about a failed terrorist attack on a commuter train near Chicago today. Even so, they were successful in preventing the bomb from going off. She visits Dr. Rutledge's office and receives confirmation of the same information. Afterwards, Rutledge is overheard saying, "Someday there will be a crisis in source code. Will be useful on that day." She then leaves. Stevens adds that they're not just recreating an old event in 8 minutes, but an entirely new world. Then he begs her to reassure the Captain Stevens of this universe that he is safe. Since you made it this far, the film is over. If you enjoy videos like this, please subscribe and enable bell notifications so you don't miss any of my future uploads. Also share your thoughts by leaving a comment. Thanks for watching.